I just finished Evenings by Allan Hollinghurst, and it was something that was recommended to me because it's expected to at least be longlisted for the Booker Prize and all of those this year, because Allan Hollinghurst has won in previous years. And from what I heard, it was one that actually did hit the buzz of like being good enough to get the nominations. And so I read it over the last couple of weeks. It is about a gay half Burmese man, and it follows his entire life from when he was 13 years old in 1961 up until the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. And it is really quite good. The writing is very strong. The kind of sense like it very much the atmosphere is there. Like you actually feel like you're in the time period and the location in that community. Characters are all like they're characterized very well in a very short period of time. Like you feel like you already know everything about this one character in the 20 or 30 pages that they're in the book. Um, it's also interesting how this follows a character who is kind of a drifter of sorts. He never stays in one place with one partner with one job for too long. He is an actor, so the job thing kind of makes sense. But um, he, yeah, never really settles down in one place for more than a few years. And he's also unremarkable. He has he's talented. It's hinted that he's incredibly talented and could go farther if not for being a half Burmese man in the 70s and 80s. Um, but he doesn't necessarily become like this big star or anything. He's just a working actor. He makes enough money to get by. He's not incredibly wealthy or anything. He's not incredibly lucky. His big stroke of luck happens before the start of the novel. Um, and he's not really stupid or anything. He doesn't really make any big mistakes. He's kind of just like a very, very normal person. And I appreciated that about it. There's no big drama either. Um, if there is big drama, it feels like it happens off screen. Off screen, the book, off page, between the lines, between sections, between chapters. It's um, it feels like so that's kind of like the strength of it. Um, the weakness of it, I feel like, is that it's asking you to relate. Like this is it's asking you to identify with specific moments, not all the moments, um, but there are individual scenes that feel like they are part of any queer person's life or um, any kind of um, racial minority in the 70s and 80s life. Um, and then there are also kind of parallel experiences that you could identify with if you were not a member of either of those minorities. Um, that I kind of thought of while I was reading about it, like reading it, thinking, huh, there's a sense of nostalgia here for this vacation that he's on. Um, but it's not I even like that's kind of separate from the queerness or um or like you could transpose specific feelings that are specific to the queerness onto a straight person and it would like those same um the relatability is still there. Then the main issue is that I just didn't have any of those experiences, so I never had any kind of relatability to the vast majority of the book. And not it's not necessarily an issue. I'm also reading The Sympathizer right now, and I don't really relate with anything that's in that book, but it's still sucking me in. Um, but our evening seems to ask for you to relate to it in a way that the sympathizer does not. So I suspect if I were a queer person, um, then this would probably be the book of the year for me. I guess it technically came out at the end of 2004, but they've got their year starts the literature year starts in like October or something. And it was released right at the end of last year. Um, so yeah, it is a really good book that I didn't entirely connect with, but it did I did get quite a bit out of it regardless. I think there's a few good quotes. Um, like actually before I get into the quotes, actually, there's another small issue I have with it is that because it's just him going through his life, lots of times there are characters that feel like they should stick around for a regular story structure and they just kind of disappear for like 100 pages. And um, I'm just, and I feel like the story would have hit a bit harder if they had appeared a little bit more often. Uh, But yeah, what are some good quotes from this that I wrote down? Um, one quote about a grandmother. I sensed that her act of being a good sport for her family was wearing thin. Other one, meeting an older, more accomplished actor. He had to keep forgiving me too for not having heard of people he talked about, and this in some subtle way seemed to put pressure on me not to disappoint him further. There's one about him kind of meeting the rich friends of this dude, Giles, who's kind of like a major antagonist in the book. Um, yeah, his friends are all like rich and all that. So the quote is, "They saw me as a foolish heretic, excluded from the story of his rise, though excused in part and made less threatening by costumes and grease point. To know an actor had a marginal glamour for such people. It was tradable among stockbrokers and barristers, often flashy little actors themselves." And then, yeah, I think those are kind of like the best of the quotes I kept. Um, yeah, I would recommend this book to most people, and especially if you are members of a queer community, um, then I think this will hit very hard for you. Overall, I think I'd probably give it like a B plus. I think that would be fair to the amount that he enjoyed and respected it.